What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the undefeated post-weigh-in show for UFC 277, brought to you by Pub Sports Radio. Lines presented by Superbook Sports. We're taking one last look at these fighters as they step on the scale before they get in the cage. We look very closely at the face-offs, at the weigh-ins. We look for imbalances, and then we try to find one extra little tidbit of value before we move on to betting on Saturday's UFC card. Join me as we go back through the card real quick, and I'm going to recap my thoughts. We broke the entire card down on Monday. I'm going to tell you my current thoughts as of today and let you know what these fighters looked like both on the scale and at the face-offs. Do me a favor, smash that like button for me. Subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio if you have not already, and let's dig into this bad boy because we got a good one. First fight of the night, Orion Cosce taking on Mike Diamond, Blood Diamond, if you will. Orion Cosce came in at 172.5, and that is backwards. Blood Diamond came in at No, that's correct. Sorry about that. I'm stumbling all over the place. Cosce missed weight today, 172.5. Blood Diamond made weight, 169.5. I'll be honest with you guys, Cosce looked absolutely awful on the scales today. He looked sucked out in the face, but he looked very soft around the middle. I mean, almost like a guy looks like when they're rolling off the couch. Very strange for him to look as bad as he did. Not something we're used to seeing. He did not look good whatsoever. Now, Blood Diamond, he looked on point. He went up there confident, arms crossed, kind of amused looking, no issues whatsoever. When they face off, Orion is definitely the thicker of these two men. I talked about the farm strength angle here, the grappling side of things. We know that Orion Cosce's grappling is going to be a problem for Mike, for Blood Diamond. But we also know that Orion can have gas tank concerns. So him coming in overweight like this is a massive deal in my opinion. That's something that's going to make it very hard for him to continue deeper on into the fight, especially with how rough he looked. If it was like he looked fine, but he stopped cutting a little early or something like that because he knew he wasn't going to make it, it really looked like he tried to make weight and failed, which feels to me like the gas tank gets drained all that much further. However, for while he can keep his offense going in the cage, he is going to have that size and that strength advantage. He might weigh a little bit more than you would expect, so he still might just be able to go in there and overpower Blood Diamond. This line is getting wider and wider. Cosce is a minus 200 favorite. Mike Blood Diamond is a plus 175 dog at this point. Don't be shocked if Cosce death gasses and then gets head kicked by Mike. However, also don't be shocked if Mike gets dragged down to the floor and beaten to a pulp or submitted by Cosce in the first. So I'm looking violence here. What I'm thinking I might actually do, kind of looking ahead to next week's card, my guy Jamal Hill in the main event, big favorite. I think he wins. I may parlay the fight doesn't go the distance on this first fight of the night with my boy Jamal Hill next week and set up a multi-card parlay that way. If there's another favorite line you like a little bit later on in the card, I don't hate that. You're getting over 1.5 here, but you can get fight doesn't go the distance for like minus 200, minus 250, somewhere in that ballpark. And rather than picking a side or trying to fade the guy with the bad weight cut, like I think that Cosce's situation just lends itself ever much more to the violence taking place in this fight. No need to pick a side. Just pick that somebody gets finished and we don't go all 15 minutes. Nicolae Negumereanu taking on Ihor Potieria. We've got Nego coming in at 205. Potieria made 204. No issues for Nicolae Negumereanu. Jogged off the stage, looking good. No issues from him. Ihor came in feeling himself. He was bouncing his pec muscles and stuff like that up on the scales today. This was an intense face-off. I told you guys that Ihor gives me Jiri vibes. He gives me the vibes of a guy who is big, who is explosive, who's powerful, and that's going to run him through some opponents, maybe not all of them, but at the low level he might just be able to absolutely ram his way past people. I don't know if he's going to be able to knock out Nicolae Negumereanu early the way that he's been able to do some of these regional guys, so because of that I'm kind of relying here on the durability. This is the Contender Series fade spot. It's a blind bet. I'm on Nicolae Negumereanu. I got plus 130. He's all the way down to minus 115. It looks like just a little bit of money ticked back in here at Superbook Sports on Ihor. He was plus 100. He is now minus 105. So the line did move ever so slightly back his way here. This was an intense face-off. Ihor stepped in and was talking in his native language, couldn't understand a thing that he said, so he was going crazy, and he is big. Like, it's a little terrifying because he's just a massive dude in there. So this one's going to get interesting. Like I said, if it wasn't for the Contender Series fade, I'm not sure I would be too excited to bet this one. I'm gonna have some questions answered on Saturday about both these guys. We'll find out if Ihor really is the Jiri type, where he's just fought nobodies, but he still has the skill set that he needs, or if he's gonna be a complete bust and flare out of the UFC rather quickly. It's gonna be interesting to find out. Joselyne Edwards taking on Jeon Kim coming up next here. Another weight miss. Joselyne Edwards came in at 137.5, 2.5 pounds over. She even tried using the box of shame. Bad body language, didn't look good up there. She had the bright blue hair going, which I actually kind of was a fan of. Jeon Kim made 135 on the dot. She looked much more filled out at 135 and much more comfortable than we're used to seeing her. I didn't give her credit for being someone that cuts a whole lot of weight, but seeing her up there at 135, she didn't look that bad, and it did look for a second like she might actually miss by a half pound or something like that. The guy that was playing with the scale, it looked like it was going to be a bit closer than any of us expected, but Jeon Kim, all smiles, absolutely love the attitude she brings here. Edwards is a decent bit bigger. We will absolutely have to go ahead and admit that. This was a good face-off. Edwards up there looking relatively confident in herself. Jeon Kim not backing off in any way, shape, or form. This is going to be a fun fight. I got Jeon Kim. I got Kim at plus 110. I got 4 units on her. It's a bigger bet than it probably should be, but I think that she deserved to be the favorite. This line opened up Jeon Kim minus 150, and I actually handicapped the fight at minus 150, minus 160. That's about where I set the line myself before I made the bet. So I think the bookies had it right the first time around. I think Jeon Kim deserves to be the favorite here. She can win this fight. Joselyne Edwards is riding high off of basically beating up a punching bag. Yes, she's bigger. Yes, she's taller, longer. But I still think Jeon Kim is going to be the one who's hitting harder. And when these things go tit for tat, Jeon Kim is more than capable of keeping up with the volume of Joselyne Edwards. It might be a close fight. It might be a hairy fight. But I'm getting the fighter that both myself and the bookies believe to be the better of the two women at plus odds. I'll take it. We'll roll those dice and we'll see what happens here. Adam Fugitt taking on Michael Morales coming up next. Fugitt made 171 on the dot. Michael Morales 170.5. Fugitt actually looked really relaxed up on scale today. Good shape, lean, nothing to be concerned with here. Michael Morales, he looked mean up there. Dude absolutely knows how to put on a mean mug. Strong flex, abs all day. His physique is off the charts. These guys size up pretty well. Morales obviously a little bit taller still. He's got that height and reach advantage, but Adam Fugitt is not a small man himself. This is going to be a fun fight. I can't wrap my head around Michael Morales being a minus 600 favorite. I get he's the blue chip prospect. I get he's a young kid. He's going to have tons of room to improve. He's got fast hands, but Adam Fugitt is he's got a wrestling advantage here over his opponent, at least on paper. He's got a jiu-jitsu advantage. He has a higher belt rank. That one's a fact. And he's a Muay Thai striker, so he's not going to be out of this fight. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Michael Morales found a way to drop the ball here to Adam Fugitt. I didn't end up pulling the trigger on this one. I have a little bit of PTSD from last week and pulling the trigger on Alexander Gustafsson. So I'm not sure that I'm quite ready to go to war here on Adam Fugitt, but I will be watching this fight very closely live to see if maybe I can jump in if Morales starts to fade, if Adam does have grappling success. I also think this is probably a relatively violent fight the way these guys both fight. I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if we get an under here. The total is set at 1.5. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105. I could see this thing squeezing over that 1.5, but I also wouldn't be surprised if either of these guys finished. So no bet from me. I'm picking Michael Morales, but I don't like how wide this line is, so at this time, no investment. Rafa Garcia taking on Drakkar Klose. Garcia came in at 155 on the dot, Klose 155.5, and Rafa was stone cold today. Looks like he's fighting with a bit of a chip on his shoulder here for some reason. Big flex, looked awesome. Klose, he had a blank face, all business. Got off as quickly as he possibly could. I'm getting weird vibes from Drakkar Klose today. This is a slight size advantage for Klose, but when they faced off, Rafa was intense, and Klose really didn't look like he wanted to be there. I've talked about Klose being a little bit of a head case. I've talked about Klose being a guy that I'm looking to get on the other side of. I felt like he was lost. He didn't have a home gym. Now that he's back with the MMA lab, I kind of feel like those problems are a little bit behind him, but at the same time, I'm getting those vibes from him today. He just didn't seem like he wanted to be there. I don't know if he's on point. I don't know if he's on his stuff. It seemed like the weight cut was a little rough on him. It wasn't like last fight where he was really itching to get back in there, really getting into his opponent's face, looking to show us he belonged. It seems like Rafa Garcia won this face-off here, and Klose just wanted to get out of there. So that doesn't inspire much confidence. I kind of like the over here. I think Rafa Garcia Probably needs to implement some grappling. We have seen Klose blow his wad and slow down. If he does that here, Rafa will be able to take him down and bank some time there. But at the same time, Garcia is a guy that tends to slow down and doesn't have a whole lot left to give in the third. Kind of expect Drakkar Klose to be able to take over in that third round at that point. So I'm expecting this one to go the distance. I'm also expecting it to be a little close. I mean, either of these guys winning by decision really would not shock me in this spot. And if Garcia was able to land a bomb on Klose and it turns out he is still a little bit shaken, he isn't as durable as we expected him to be, I'll be honest, I wouldn't be too surprised. Hamdy, Abdelwahab taking on Don'Tale Mayes. Hamdy came in at 264.5, Don'Tale Mayes 255. So Hamdy is going to be the shorter squatter and much heavier fighter here. And boy, is he thick, let me tell you. Huge arms. I mean, this guy's arms are bigger than my thighs. He is such a wide upper body. It's insanity. Look up his photos. When he weighed in and he flexed, I don't know anybody that's got arms that thick. He gave a big flex on scale today. Don'Tale Mayes also gave a big flex himself. He is a monster in his own right. Much more tall, much more slim. Looking good, no issues. Obviously, we've got a tall and long versus short and squat type of matchup here. It was interesting to me that Hamdy did not look at Don'Tale Mayes in the eyes. He kind of did the whole averting thing, trying to look away from him here. What we've got is Hamdy is a plus 170 underdog. Don'Tale Mayes is a minus 190 favorite. I got in on Don'Tale Mayes much earlier in the week, and I got him at minus 155. I've got 3.1 units to win 2 on him at that number. And of course, we got to include the Don'Tale Mayes by sub prop. 20 to 1. 20 to 1 they dropped that bad boy. My guy just got promoted to BJJ purple belt. He's taken on a short notice opponent, a guy who's fighting up at heavyweight, taking one of the biggest leaps in competition you could ask for. And according to my guy Cody Saftik, he turned down a lower fight promotion, fight offer just a month ago because he wasn't in shape, because he wasn't ready to take it. So the fact that he turned that one down and now he's accepting a short notice UFC fight, I have questions about this guy's cardio. I've got questions about his gas tank. Now, if he is the Olympic caliber wrestler that people are claiming that he is, could he come in here and maul Don'Tale Mayes on the mat for 15 minutes? Yes. He absolutely could do that, and maybe that's what we see. But Don'Tale Mayes, even in his UFC fights against guys like Nascimento and Cyril Gahn, he showed a good get-up game. He showed urgency to get back to his feet. He scrambled. He pushed off. He tried to get back up. If he does that with a guy like Hamdy, I'm not convinced that Hamdy's got 15 minutes worth of gas. And when you've got a tough, gritty fighter, somebody who's got a decent chin on them, but they get tired, you know what they do? They don't get knocked out. They tap. That's why I'm shooting for this sub prop. If Don'Tale Mayes can get on top of Hamdy, I do think that he can just use his sheer size and cardio advantage from having a full weight camp or full fight camp himself to be able to tire out the short notice opponent. And I'm looking for that round 2, maybe even that round 3 sub. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Hamdy comes out and gets Don'Tale Mayes down in the first round and out grapples him. But as long as Don'Tale makes this guy work, I think he's got a chance to go ahead and win this fight. Hamdy's also got those, big meat hooks for arms though. As much as I hate to say it, because I got a bet on Don'Tale Mayes, don't be shocked if he, wings a giant hook and knocks this guy out in the first round. I don't think that's going to happen. But this is low-level heavyweights, and these guys hit hard, so just be careful. Personally, I set this line at minus 200, but I wouldn't really want to lay minus 200 on Don'Tale Mayes, if that makes any sense. It's at minus 190 right now, so we're getting close to the range where I expected this thing to close when I capped the line myself. Next up, Rafael Alves and Drew Dober. Both guys came in at 155.5. Big difference here on the scales. Rafael Alves was dancing his way to the scale. That guy was feeling himself, looked strong, looked thick, no issues, and Drew Dober looked rough. Now, I will admit that Drew Dober is basically one of my Brazilian balloons. He's an honorary Brazilian balloon because he's not Brazilian, obviously. But he does this thing where he just looks like death on the scales, and then he somehow manages to rehydrate and is fine. I mean, we're talking sucked out, sunken in dark eyes, his mouth hanging open, lost his balance, wavering on the scale while he was up there. This guy legitimately looks dead. He even used the trick where he stands on, like one side of the scale and then lifted his free arm off to the side to try to counterbalance the weight but still just be that half-pound lighter so he made weight. It worked. Nobody made him put his arm down, so he got away with it. But he had a tough time on the scales this morning. Now, when they get to the face-off, this was maybe the most fun face-off of the day here. I mean, Drew Dober came up, got in close on Rafael Alves, put his fist right in his face, and then both guys immediately started laughing. Like, they know they're in for a scrap. They know they're in for an absolute war here in this fight, and I love it. So, I've got questions about Drew Dober's durability. He tends to drop the ball when he gets up to the upper echelon here. I just don't know where Rafael Alves ranks as far as this upper echelon. He's had some really good moments in the UFC so far. He also has had to kind of take some time off and has been outworked by his opponents. So I'm kind of leaning dog or pass here after everything is all said and done this week. I think Drew Dober is the more technical of the two fighters. I think he's probably the more skilled of the two fighters. But I also think Rafael Alves might just have that it factor. He can finish at any point in time in this fight. Even though he's tired, even though he's exhausted, he does that breakdancing like spin to get out from under a guy like Damir Ismagulov deep in the third round of their fight. Like, that kind of explosive Yoel Romero-esque power is something that you just can't fake. It's not something you can teach. Like, this guy is blessed with something that other fighters are not going to have. So I think he can bum rush Drew Dober and get him out of there. I think he's live in a kickboxing match over the course of 15 minutes as well. I do kind of lean violence in this fight. Total set at 2.5. Under 2.5 is -170. That's a little steep, but I think it makes sense that somebody probably does end up getting knocked out. If Rafael Alves can't finish Drew Dober probably early, then maybe Drew's cardio pace and technical boxing take over this fight and get him the win a little bit later. But Rafael Alves, like I said, he's shown an ability to hang in fights maybe when he shouldn't. So I'm not counting this guy out. +150 on Rafael Alves. No bet for me at this point in time, but I don't hate the inside the distance shot. I don't hate the knockout prop or even the sub prop on Rafael Alves, and just violence in general here. Another one, I guess I'm going to say dog or pass, but I don't have a bet on the dog, which might make me sad come Saturday if I don't end up betting it and he ends up pulling it off. Next up, we got Alex Morono taking on Matt Semelsberger. Both guys made 171. Classic Morono on the scales. Not a guy that looks overly impressive physically ever, so we're not too surprised by that. Matthew Semelsberger, though, looked very relaxed, caveman style up there with his long, mangy hair and the big old beard. He looks like he's in pretty good shape. This was a very respectful face-off when these guys got up to each other. Decent size advantage, though, here for Matt. The line hasn't moved much. -155 for Semelsberger, +135 for Alex Morono. I did get on Semelsberger, another 3.1 units to win, too, at the -155 mark. I waited until the market kind of bought Semelsberger down just a little bit. I was seeing him at -165, -175, but all the talk was Morono. I know it's Shark Week, guys. I know it's Shark Week, but I don't think that's enough for Alex Morono to beat Matt Semelsberger here in this spot. Matt is the real prospect here. Morono's got the experience edge, obviously, but Matt has all the other advantages: height, reach, length, power, all of it. So if he is going to turn the corner, if he's going to make himself a real legitimate UFC fighter, this is the kind of test that I think he needs to pass. And personally, I'm betting that he will. Alex Morono's 3-fight win streak is over questionable competition at best, and he's one of these guys that nobody really liked or cared about until his last couple of fights, and now all of a sudden everyone wants to pile on him at underdog odds. I think it's a bit trappy. I'm going to side with the favorite here. I think Matt has probably improved enough to be able to go ahead and pass this test. I am on the favorite, Semi the Jedi. Next up, we got Magomed Ankalaev taking on Anthony Smith. Both guys made 206. They did need that extra pound allowance there. Magomed needed to take a minute to himself, took a big old deep breath. He was extremely relieved when they called that weight off. He thought he was going to miss. No issues. He seems to be all right. Anthony Smith missed on his first try, 206.5. We know he's bulked up a little bit for this fight. He did need the box of shame, and he did get the call once he got up there with that black box. He did look notably bigger when he weighed in today. Anthony Smith is pumped up. He was like screaming at the crowd, "Let's go!" This was an intense face-off. These guys size up really well. I am excited for this fight. Magomed's a -550 favorite. Anthony Smith is +425. And this, again, is one of those pick the favorite but bet the dog type of situations. I get it. Magomed Ankalaev probably does deserve to be the favorite here. But if people are disrespecting Anthony Smith, I mean, I would say Magomed Ankalaev is maybe a -225, -250 favorite here, not a -550 favorite. He's shown holes in his game, Anthony Smith is talking a good game about forcing this guy into a fight. Nobody's ever really pushed him that way. And I think we have seen evidence of that in his fights. We've seen Ankalaev hurt. He's been knocked down by a guy like Thiago Santos. He's been submitted by Paul Craig. Like, this guy is not invincible. If Anthony Smith's head is in the game, and I think it is based on what we're seeing and the way he's talking, if he shows up and doesn't just, relax and let Magomed take the lead foot here, if he actually brings the fight to Magomed Ankalaev, I think this could be a dogfight and we could see a finish. And I think Anthony Smith could get his hand raised at the end of it. He's got the type of style that could beat this man. The only issue is Anthony Smith gets stuck on his back. If you decide to wrestle him and take him down, he accepts bottom position and he will chill there for an entire round. He can't do that here. And that's kind of the one thing that's really stopping me from betting this fight, is that if this thing is striking, we're good. If this thing is jiu-jitsu based grappling, we're good. But if Ankalaev decides he wants to come out and wrestle, then he kind of has an I win button, and this minus 550 could look like value in hindsight. So I'm not touching it. Might jump in live. Maybe we take Anthony Smith inside the distance at like freaking 10-1 because it's an insane number. This fight should be more fun than the line suggests. Next up, Alexandre Pantoja taking on Alex Perez. Both guys made 125.5, and both guys were all business here today. Both of them look in incredible shape. Alex Perez a little bit sucked out, a little bit nervous looking. It's been a while since he's made it up there. Slight size advantage for Perez when they faced off, but both guys absolutely stone cold, all business, really good face off. Pantoja minus 180 favorite. Alex Perez is a plus 160 underdog. I'm tempted on Alex Perez, I'll be honest, guys, because Alexandre Pantoja has a tendency to take a back foot. He has a tendency to accept bottom and play jiu-jitsu. He also has some serious finishing upside, and Perez is a guy that we have seen hurt and tapped and rocked, and he sticks his head in guillotine sometimes. So, like, this one's tough. The one thing that I would say that I actually kind of do like would be Perez by decision, because I think you're getting about plus 350 on Perez by decision. Let me check that number here over at Superbook Sports. Alex Perez by decision plus 350. That makes sense to me because Pantoja is not a guy that you finish. Perez, while he's been able to blow through some low lever guys, is not really a finisher. He's more of a grappler, wrestler, decision type, and he's going to need to mind his P's and Q's against a guy like Pantoja. I think that's really his best path to victory. And at plus 350, you're like doubling the guy's price tag for his best win condition. I don't mind that whatsoever. Pantoja, obviously the bigger finisher of the two. If you're looking for a way to play him, I'd be looking more for like the submission prop, which is also plus 350. The kind of thing where I think he catches a neck on a takedown, something along those lines. God bless you if you're betting this fight. I think this is extremely tough to call. A guy coming off a 2-year layoff, both guys in that championship circle looking for contender status. This is a hard fight to bet. So at this point, it is a pass for me. But again, that Perez by decision is kind of the line that I would be tempted to take a little shot at here. Derrick Lewis taking on Sergey Pavlovich coming up next. Lewis made 264.5, Pavlovich 254.5. Derrick Lewis was mean mugging today. He was intense and flexing. He did keep his shirt on, so we know he was able to make weight a little easier than normal because usually he requires stripping everything down to be able to get there. So there's been a lot of focus on Derrick Lewis's camp coming into this, his strength and conditioning, his cardio training, stuff that he's taken a little bit more serious in general here. Sergey Pavlovich on all the supplements, folks, like every last one of them. He is huge. This dude is absolutely massive. Derrick Lewis went crazy eyes on Sergey Pavlovich when they went into face-off. Poor Sergey. He was just trying to stand there, right? Like, he kept getting blowed over and pushed back, and Lewis was coming for him. This line doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Sergey's a minus 145 favorite after knocking out 3 absolute bums. Derrick Lewis is getting plus 125 as the underdog in his hometown, being disrespected against a very untested heavyweight. Now, I know Sergey is big. I know he's got fast hands. I know he's long. Again, that upside of being the young Russian. But Derrick Lewis handles Russians. He loses to other people, just not Russians. Derrick Lewis is a guy that he's got so much power. I've decided this is a coin that I don't need to flip. Whichever of these guys lands first is going to be the winner. So, like, you're literally just paying a price tag to flip a quarter here on this one. You might as well call your buddy down the street and put $100 on heads or tails instead, because Sergey could come in and blow through Derrick Lewis with a couple of quick flurries. Derrick Lewis because Sergey takes more than one punch to get the job done, could line up a counter shot and just flatline this young kid. What if he goes to the takedowns again? What if he mixes in the trips like he did with Tuivasa? We saw Sergey Pavlovich get put on his back and be absolutely helpless against Alistair Overeem. Derrick Lewis could put this man down and TKO him from that spot without a problem. I also don't mind violence here. Total set at 1.5. The over is plus 125. The under is minus 145. Sergey has never been out of the first round in the UFC. Derrick Lewis has this weird ability to drag fights later than they should. Sometimes he takes his time. Sometimes he tries to be more technical. So I wouldn't be shocked if this thing squeezes over there. But based on how Sergey fights, you would kind of expect this thing to be a gunfight and be a gunfight early. Like I said, for me, it's dog or pass. I think Derrick Lewis, buy low spot, plus 125 against an untested young gun. But again, just not a fight that I really need to bet on because one of these guys is going to go down hard and probably quick. Brandon Moreno taking on Kai Kara-France. Both guys came in at 124.5 under the championship limit. Business as usual for my guy Brandon Moreno. Looks like he was having fun up there on the scale. He's always a happy dude. I love that about him. Kai Kara-France gave a solid flex. He's another one of these dudes that's gets real sucked out. You see those cheekbones when Kai Kara-France is on weight. But he gave a good flex. This was an intense face-off. Kai Kara-France is all in the zone today. Cannot wait for this co-main event. Brandon Moreno is minus 210. Kai Kara-France is plus 180. And I'm in trouble here on this one. Like, I love Brandon Moreno so much. My heart is involved in this one. I'm not betting this fight because I can't help myself. The thing is, I feel like this line is a little bit too wide. The more I look at it, the more I read into it, like the improvements that Kai Kara-France has made over the last couple of years, they just can't be denied. You can't talk your way out of them. He dropped Brandon Moreno twice in their previous fight. Brandon Moreno has taken a lot of damage since then. He's had a lot of wear and tear fighting Figueiredo, if anybody. And even though Brandon Moreno switched camps, even though I'm expecting probably a more technical, maybe grapple-heavy game plan here in this fight, Kai Kara-France is not a guy that lets that happen. He forces striking exchanges. He forces a war no matter what. And I don't want to have a minus 210 ticket on Brandon Moreno in my pocket when I'm rooting for my boy to become champion again and see him get dropped to a knee by Kai Kara-France in the first round. Like, I just can't put myself in that position. So I am picking Brandon Moreno for the win. I'm going to put him in the long-distance Hail Mary parlays here. I'm kind of thinking by decision because Kai Kara-France, again, those improvements, he's a guy that will hang around. I think we're in for a close fight, maybe even a split, but I'm going to pick Brandon Moreno to get the job done. I'm just too terrified to actually put my money on it. Main event time, Amanda Nunes taking on Julianna Pena. Julianna gave everybody a scare. She was the last one to weigh in. We were all freaking out. 2 minutes before the cutoff point, she comes in and makes 134.5. She gave a big smile once she got up there. She is in crazy good shape. If you have not seen her, she looks fantastic. Now, everybody thought, maybe she looked awful. It was a fake smile. I think people are reading a little too far into this one. I know that's like literally my job on this show is to read too far into these things, but she did not physically look bad. Her balance was not off. She was not sucked out. Yes, she looked a little uncomfortable. She gave an awkward smile because that's what you do on weigh-in day. But her coaches came out right afterward and said that she was late to the scales because they let her sleep in, trying to get her that extra recovery and rest time. She just didn't need to be up that early. That makes perfect sense to me. I'm sorry. Like, maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid here. Maybe I'm the sucker and all of you are on your keyboards going right now like, duh, Clint, obviously she had a rough cut and they're covering for her. Maybe that's true, but I don't see anything in her physique, in her mannerisms, in her movements. I saw none of the signs that we generally see for a bad weight cut. It looks like the weight cut went fine and she just weighed in at the end, if I'm being honest with you guys. Amanda Nunes, on the other hand, looked a little bit rough. She was nervous looking at the scale. She looked a little bit sucked out, a little off-colored. She did give a good intense flex when she was done and she looked fine at the ceremonials, so I think it was just one of those, sometimes it's tough to make weight type of situations. As much as I'm not reading into Julianna Pena's weigh-in, I am also not reading into Amanda Nunes' weigh-in. Like I said, if we got to go who weighed in looked better or worse, I think Amanda Nunes looked worse. Do I think that's going to affect her performance on Saturday? No, I don't. I think this is a championship weigh-in, and both these women did what they had to do to make weight. Amanda weighed in at 135 on the dot, and it is a bit of a struggle for her, but she got the dang thing done. Neither woman wanted to back off when they faced off. This was obviously incredibly intense with these two. Amanda keeps on putting her fist in Julianna Pena's face, and if I'm being honest with you guys, that almost seems like bully mentality. It almost seems like a bit of a weakness to me, that she's trying to punk someone like Julianna Pena and is just not being successful in doing so. It seems like she's really trying to intimidate somebody who she lost to and get a mental edge over somebody who she lost to. Julianna Pena's got the mental edge here, folks. Like, plain and simple. She's the one who got the win last time. She was smiling in Amanda Nunes' face. She is not blinking. She is not backing down. Her self-belief, her self-confidence, they're off the charts. Maybe to a fault, they're off the charts. You gotta love it. Right now, we've got Pena sitting at plus 220. Amanda Nunes is minus 260. And I totally understand anybody and everybody taking the buy low spot on the champ, because this is the women's MMA GOAT, the best of all time in Amanda Nunes, and we have not seen a minus 260 price tag on her in God knows how long. So because of that, if you're banking on Amanda Nunes coming back and getting her title and taking this fight a bit more seriously, I get it. I absolutely get it. But for me, we just saw Julianna Pena be the picture-perfect, worst-case scenario matchup for the champion. She's a bad matchup for her. Good cardio, good durability, self-belief. She can fight through the fire and then put it on her opponent until they break. We saw her break Amanda Nunes. And Amanda is waking up in silk sheets at this point. She's not training at the best gym in the world anymore. She moved her gym into her backyard. She doesn't have high-level training partners. I don't think doing some additional mitt work, I don't think doing some additional cardio is going to be enough to stop someone like Julianna Pena. I expect Amanda Nunes to have a better showing. I really do. In fact, I think it goes over 2.5 this time instead of finishing in the first or the second round. But I do think that Julianna Pena will still manage to wear her down. I do think when Nunes starts to get tired, Julianna Pena will take over this fight. I don't know if it'll be by decision. I don't know if it's going to be a late stoppage, but I do think that Julianna Pena is going to get her arm raised at the end of this thing, and I have bet the underdog, and I have bet her heavily. I got 3 units at plus 240. She's down to plus 220, so that line has moved a little bit. I think I credited myself at plus 225, actually, because the line moved like literally after I bet it. They moved it to plus 225, so for the official record, I'm going to quote plus 225 because that's what people could get at the time since I actually, made the tweet about putting the bet out there. And then I've told you guys before about the futures bet that I have on Julianna Pena to be the champion at the beginning of 2023. That's plus 550, 2 units on that. Now, if she loses this fight and they run it back and have an immediate rematch, I could still potentially cash that one before the end of the year. I'm just hoping she gets her hand raised on Saturday and I can free roll that thing for the next couple of months. We'll see what happens after that, right? If she runs into Valentina Shevchenko, we'll have to reassess that bet yet again. But I wanted to get on the money line for this one because I do think Julianna Pena wins again on Saturday. That is the Undefeated Post Weigh-In Show, folks. Thank you for bringing your tinfoil hat and hanging out with me here. Smash the like button for me. Share the show if you could. See you tomorrow, and good luck on all your degenerate action for UFC 277. Let's secure the bag. I hope you get a big win. Let's roll.